Yo, hoop fans! Your sideline sage, Tips and Upstreams, is lacing up once again. On deck, deep dives into the freshest NBA clashes, ready to set the planks ablaze. But before we jump the ball, be sure to hammer that subscribe on our YouTube channel to keep hooked with our sharp forecasts and prime selections. All right, let's bounce into today's NBA Crystal Ball reads. The first prediction for today is for the game between Brooklyn Nets and New York Knicks. In the pulsating heart of the Atlantic Division, the Barclays Center is about to witness a quintessential New York showdown, with the Brooklyn Nets playing host to their city rivals, the New York Knicks. This encounter isn't just a regular game, it's a narrative-rich battle, with both squads navigating through their respective challenges and ambitions, looking to make a significant mark on their season's story. The Nets, with a record that's far from stellar at 17-25, are desperately trying to rebound from a series of letdowns, notably their unraveling in the game against the Clippers. Their recent track isn't inspiring confidence either. Standing at 26-44, it's clear they're wrestling with consistency, especially in game-deciding moments. Offensively, they're in a tough spot, ranked 25th in scoring and struggling to make shots from anywhere on the court. Their defensive efforts haven't been any more encouraging as they grapple with limiting their opponents' scoring and forcing turnovers, which has cast a shadow over their current standing. On the other side of the court, the Knicks, at 26-17, have been on a roll since tweaking their lineup, securing victories in 9 of their last 11 games. This resurgence has catapulted them up the Eastern Conference ladder, highlighting their strategic brilliance and balanced gameplay. Their defense is particularly formidable, holding the second spot for the least points allowed per game, proving they can shut down high-powered offenses. Offensively, they might not be the slickest shooters, but their hustle and dominance on the rebounding front have kept them in contention, compensating for their shooting woes. Digging into their recent face-offs in Brooklyn, the Knicks have had the upper hand, including a significant 121-102 triumph earlier this season. This history, combined with the Nets' struggles and the Knicks' rise, sets the stage for an intriguing clash. From a statistical perspective, the Knicks boast superior defensive and rebounding metrics, essential for playoff success. Their knack for stifling opponents' scoring while capitalizing on second-chance opportunities has been key to their turnaround. The Nets, despite their potential, are bogged down by their inconsistency and leaky defense. Injuries are also a crucial factor, with the Nets sidelined by the absence of key players. Given their recent form and defensive shortcomings, they face an uphill battle against a Knicks squad that's hitting its stride. The betting lines, with the Knicks favored by a 7.5-point margin, mirror the current team dynamics. Given the Knicks' defensive edge and the Nets' offensive hiccups, a scenario where the Knicks not only emerge victorious, but also cover the spread seems likely. The projected low score, set at 204.5 points, fits the Knicks' defensive scheme and the Nets' scoring difficulties. In sum, amidst fluctuating fortunes, the Knicks are primed to exploit the Nets' frailties, controlling the game's tempo, leveraging their defensive solidity, and navigating Brooklyn's inconsistencies to clinch a victory and cover the spread. This bout is expected to tilt towards the under, with the Knicks' defensive efficiency and the Nets' scoring challenges. My bet is on the New York Knicks to triumph and exceed the 7.5-point spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Sacramento Kings and Orlando Magic. In the dynamic world of the NBA, the upcoming showdown between the Sacramento Kings and the Orlando Magic at the Kia Center is shaping up to be an electrifying battle. As both squads vie for a spot in the playoffs, this clash is loaded with implications. The Kings, boasting a solid 40-29 record, have been lighting up the scoreboard with an impressive 117.9 points per game, securing their place as the league's 8th most prolific scoring team. Their shooting accuracy is on point, with a field goal percentage of 48.3%, underscoring their offensive finesse. However, their defense leaves something to be desired, conceding an average of 116.5 points per game and landing them in the 18th spot in terms of defensive efficacy. Conversely, the Orlando Magic, with a 42-28 tally, have built a fortress around their basket, allowing a mere 108.8 points per game, which positions them third in the league defensively. Though their offensive output doesn't match the Kings, they still maintain a respectable 110.9 points per game and a 47.8% success rate from the field. A closer look at both teams' recent form highlights the Kings' struggles, particularly emphasized by their recent defeat to the Wizards despite De'Aaron Fox's stellar performance. The Kings' defensive shortcomings allowed the Wizards to shoot beyond 50%. In contrast, the Magic's latest triumph over the Pelicans showcased their well-rounded game and tight defense, spearheaded by Jalen Suggs. Historically, the Kings have dominated the head-to-head matchups, especially on the Magic's turf. This history, combined with their scoring efficiency, could tip the scales. Yet, the Magic's defensive might and their hot streak, including a 5-game tier and an impressive record against the spread, are formidable. Their knack for stifling high-octane offenses could be the key to overcoming the Kings. Considering both teams' recent performances in this city, the Kings' knack for rebounding from defeats and their scoring versatility, matched with the Magic's grit and defensive schemes, promise a nail-biter. The outcome could also hinge on each team's performance from beyond the arc and on the boards, areas where both have shown varying degrees of consistency. Factoring in the against-the-spread records, recent form, head-to-head history, and both teams' specific trends, the scales tip in favor of the Magic. Their defensive superiority and home court prowess, especially against the spread, give them a slight edge. The Magic's form and defensive acumen position them well, not just to clinch a win, but also to cover the 3-point spread. With a total points line set at 216.5, considering the team's offensive and defensive records, it suggests a close contest where the emphasis on defense could push the total points towards the under. In sum, the Orlando Magic's defensive strength, home advantage, and form make them the pick to win and beat the spread against the Sacramento Kings. Anticipate a tight contest where defense plays a pivotal role, likely resulting in a total score lower than expected. My money's on the Orlando Magic to emerge victorious and cover the spread, with the game's total points falling under 216.5. The next prediction for today is for the game between Charlotte Hornets and Atlanta Hawks. In the high-voltage atmosphere of NBA thrillers, all eyes are on an electrifying face-off as the Charlotte Hornets prepare to take on the Atlanta Hawks. This showdown sees the Hornets struggling to find their rhythm with a 17-52 record and currently caught in a losing streak of 3 games, pitted against the Hawks, who at 30-39 are fiercely competing for a coveted play-in position in the Eastern Conference, despite recent hiccups, including a 112-92 setback against Orlando for Charlotte and a 128-115 tumble against Phoenix for Atlanta. Both teams are set to bring their A-game to the court. Zooming into the Hornets' season, it's clear they've hit rough patches, positioned at 29th for both scoring and offensive efficiency, and 19th in defense. Yet, the spark from Brandon Miller and Vasilije Micic has occasionally lit up the scoreboard, though team-wide consistency remains elusive. On the flip side, the Hawks, despite stumbling defensively, flaunt an offense in the top tier, with DeJounte Murray and DeAndre Hunter leading the charge, but their defensive gameplay, also at 29th for points allowed, is an area of concern. The battle of stats, especially in their home arenas, hints at an advantage for the Hawks. With shooting percentages slightly better than the Hornets and a stronger rebound game, especially at home, the scales tip in Atlanta's favor. A look back at the last few head-to-head matchups in Atlanta leans slightly towards the home team, a trend that, coupled with Charlotte's current woes and Atlanta's push for playoff contention, suggests an interesting dynamic. Although the absence of key players like Trae Young for Atlanta evens out the playing field a bit, the depth of the Hawks could prove decisive. Injury updates are crucial to this analysis. Despite missing key players, Atlanta's depth and adaptability might just swing the game their way. Considering the urgency for both teams, especially Atlanta's playoff chase, fatigue is likely to take a backseat. After evaluating both teams' recent form, offensive and defensive standings, and past encounters in Atlanta, considering injuries, the forecast is intricate. The Hawks have the offensive firepower to surpass the Hornets, but Charlotte's fighting spirit, powered by Miller and Mikic, is not to be underestimated. Given these considerations, the prediction tilts towards an Atlanta Hawks win. Nevertheless, the Charlotte Hornets' tenacity, especially in beating the odds, should not be overlooked. The defensive struggles of the Hawks could allow the Hornets to narrow the gap more than the 9.5-point spread suggests. With the offensive strengths of Atlanta, and considering the Hornets' recent efforts, a high-scoring game is anticipated, likely pushing the total points beyond the 215.5 mark. To wrap it up, while the Hawks are the favorites, the wise bet is on the Charlotte Hornets to beat the 9.5-point spread, with a strong chance that the total score will surpass the over-under, showcasing the offensive prowess and defensive challenges of both teams. My pick is on the Charlotte Hornets to beat the spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Toronto Raptors and Washington Wizards. In the bustling heart of the nation's capital, a showdown looms as the Toronto Raptors gear up to take on the Washington Wizards in a clash that highlights the trials and tribulations of two squads desperately seeking to regain their rhythm as the season winds down. The Raptors, trapped in a disheartening 11-game losing streak, are on a quest to reclaim some respect. Meanwhile, the Wizards, riding the high of a spirit-lifting victory over the Kings, aim to kickstart a winning streak. Toronto's recent performances have been a disaster. Their offense has fizzled out, and on defense, they've been powerless to stop their rivals, resulting in a string of decisive losses. The absence of pivotal players like Jakob Poeltl, Scotty Barnes, and R.J. Barrett, all sidelined with injuries, has severely hampered their efforts. The team's reliance on Gary Trent Jr. and the vital energy Jordan Nwora brings off the bench highlights Toronto's depth challenges, exacerbated by Emmanuel Quickley's absence and a roster still adjusting after recent trades. On the flip side, the Wizards have shown tenacity and a hint of promise in their victory, despite a season filled with lows. Kyle Kuzma's comeback has injected some much-needed vigor into their offense, with Deni Avdija's contributions shining brightly. Their capacity to end their losing streak, especially at Capital One Arena, a venue where the Raptors often struggle, slightly tips the balance in their favor for this encounter. Both teams have floundered statistically, but the Wizards' marginally better performance at home and their ability to clinch a win against the Kings suggest a team that, despite its stumbles, might still pack a surprise. The Raptors' challenges on the road and the toll of consecutive games, particularly with a limited squad, should not be underestimated. Their offensive and defensive effectiveness has nosedived, making a victory in Washington seem unlikely. Considering both teams' recent encounters in Washington and their current form, the Wizards seem to have a slight upper hand. The Raptors' difficulties in away games and in playing consecutive matches paint a bleak outlook for their chances in this encounter. Despite their own hurdles, the Wizards have proven capable of stepping up, particularly against similarly struggling opponents. The odds, with the Wizards favored to win by a 5-point margin, signal expectations of a tightly contested game, but also recognize the home court advantage and the comparative form of the two teams. A total points line set at 232.5 points hints at a game ripe with scoring, likely due to defensive shortcomings on both sides. Given the Raptors' scoring struggles and the Wizards' own inconsistencies, betting on fewer total points scored is a reasonable expectation. In summary, while both teams have their flaws, the Wizards' recent uplift, coupled with the myriad of challenges facing the Raptors, tips the scale towards Washington as the likely victor. The Raptors' recent failures to meet the spread in back-to-back games further cements the Wizards as the favorable choice. Expect the Wizards to surpass the spread in a match that falls short of the anticipated total points, highlighting the offensive difficulties faced by both teams. My money's on the Washington Wizards to win and beat the 5-point spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Boston Celtics and Chicago Bulls. In the bustling heart of the Windy City, under the bright lights of the United Center, the Boston Celtics come in hot, riding a wave of 7 straight wins, ready to face off against the gritty, never-say-die Chicago Bulls in what's shaping up to be an epic NBA clash. The Celtics, who are lighting up the scoreboard with an average of 121 points per game and shooting at an impressive 48.5%, are going head-to-head with a Bulls squad known for their flashes of brilliance amidst bouts of inconsistency. Boston's sharpshooting, leading the league in both three-point shots, taken and landed, is in stark contrast to Chicago's struggles from downtown, with the Bulls barely making 11.7 threes per game, placing them near the league's bottom. Boston's recent triumph over Milwaukee is a testament to their resilience and clutch performance, highlighted by Jason Tatum's explosive 31 points, proving he's a force to be reckoned with. The Celtics' scoring depth is nothing short of remarkable, with 3 starters consistently breaking the 20-point mark. Their offensive juggernaut, paired with a defense as solid as a rock, conceding only 109.5 points on average, marks them as a powerhouse. Their defensive strategy, particularly their prowess in shutting down the paint and curbing opponents' three-point success rate to below 35%, showcases their comprehensive game plan. On the other hand, the Bulls, with an offense averaging 112.1 points and a defense allowing 113.7, are heavily relying on DeMar DeRozan and Kobe White to light up the scoreboard. Their defensive game is a bag of surprises, strong in the paint but faltering against long-range shots, a critical vulnerability against a Celtics team that excels in perimeter shooting. A dive into the recent head-to-heads in Chicago hints at a pattern where the home team prevails, with the Bulls particularly adept at overcoming the odds, especially after a loss against Eastern Conference rivals. This pattern, combined with their knack for limiting opponents' scoring in the paint, sets the stage for a nail-biter. Yet, the Celtics' record against teams below 500 and their ability to beat the odds in such matchups can't be ignored. Given Boston's explosive offense and Chicago's defensive gaps from beyond the arc, the Bulls are up against a significant challenge. Considering possible absences in the Celtics lineup due to injuries, the game dynamics could pivot. The Bulls' stronghold at home and their recent performance against Eastern Conference contenders suggest they could not only defy the odds, but also halt Boston's winning streak. Wrapping up, though the Celtics step in as the front-runners, their latest emotional victory, potential key player absences, and the Bulls' home court prowess against Eastern opponents make this game particularly gripping. The Bulls' defensive strategies in the paint and their ability to disrupt plays could throw Boston off their game, especially if the Celtics miss crucial players. Thus, taking the circumstances and the 8-point spread into account, it's a smart bet to back the Bulls to overcome the spread in a game that might also tip towards the under, given both teams' defensive capabilities in keeping scores low. My money's on the Chicago Bulls to beat the 8-point spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Utah Jazz and Houston Rockets. As the Utah Jazz lace up against the Houston Rockets for their March 23, 2024 showdown at the Toyota Center, the hardwood is primed for an electrifying NBA clash. Fresh off a tough loss to Dallas, the Jazz are hungry for a comeback, squaring off against a Rockets squad that's riding high from a solid dub over the Bulls. Both teams are set to go hard in the paint, making this game a must-watch for hoops enthusiasts. The Jazz have hit a rough patch recently, taking L's against the Timberwolves, Thunder, and Mavericks. Despite giving it their all, their scoring game has dipped, taking hits from injuries to key players like Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. On the flip side, the Rockets are on a hot streak, racking up wins against top-tier teams and rocketing up the Western Conference standings. Their recent triumph over the Bulls is a testament to their ambition and potential. Digging into the numbers, the Rockets boast superior offensive stats, outshooting the Jazz in both field goals and threes. This scoring prowess, combined with their hustle for rebounds, gives the Rockets a hefty edge. Moreover, the Rockets have stepped up their defense, effectively choking the opponent's playmaking and shot blocking, areas where the Jazz have been lagging. History shows that the Rockets have a knack for dominating the Jazz at home, leveraging their home court to snag victories. Considering the Jazz's shaky record against the spread on the road, the Rockets are poised to keep their winning streak alive. Injuries have been a game-changer for both squads. The Jazz are feeling the pinch without their stars, while the Rockets have kept their lineup solid, with players like Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet delivering standout performances. Eyeing the Rockets' stellar performance and their knack for beating the spread lately, they're well placed to not just win, but also to cover the 9.5-point spread set by the odds makers. The Jazz's defensive woes, especially in blocking and keeping scores low, swing the odds in Houston's favor. With a total points line at 226.5 and both teams' ability to score big, we're likely looking at a high-scoring affair leaning towards an over. Wrapping it up, the Rockets' current momentum, statistical upper hand, and home court history peg them as the top picks to clinch the win and beat the spread. The Jazz's recent road trip, woes, and spread challenges highlight the uphill battle they face. Given the Rockets' sharp offense and the advantage of playing at home, bank on them to snag the win and cover the 9.5-point spread, making them the hot pick. The odds are in the Rockets' favor, and it looks like the bookies have this one dialed in. My money's on the Houston Rockets to secure the win and cover the spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Phoenix Suns and San Antonio Spurs. In the imminent showdown at Frostbank Center, the Phoenix Suns are gearing up to battle the San Antonio Spurs in what's shaping up to be an electrifying display of both teams' arsenal. The Suns, riding the roller coaster of their recent games, including a standout triumph over the Hawks and a stumble against the Bucks, boast a high-octane offense that's been lighting up the scoreboard with an impressive 116.9 points per game, thanks to a slick 49.4% success rate from the field. At the helm, the dynamic duo of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are dropping buckets left and right, clocking in at 27.8 and 27.2 points per game respectively, proving Phoenix's knack for turning up the heat when it counts, as evidenced in their clutch fourth-quarter surge against the Hawks, their sharpshooting from deep hitting at a 37.5% clip, along with Durant's milestone moments, mark them as a formidable force in the attack. On the flip side, the San Antonio Spurs, despite hitting a rough patch recently with defeats to the Mavericks and Grizzlies, bring a vibrant young squad to the forefront, anchored by Victor Wembanyama, with a solid double-double average of 20.7 points and 10.4 boards. Wembanyama, along with Devin Vassell's 19.3 points per game, showcased the Spurs as a gritty bunch ready to take on the Titans. Their grit was on full display in a nail-biter against the Mavericks, even though they couldn't clinch the win. However, San Antonio's scoring prowess, averaging 112.3 points per game, is somewhat dampened by their defensive leaks, allowing 119.7 points on average, which the Suns might just exploit. Diving into the stats, Phoenix's edge in shooting accuracy and three-point precision sets them apart. The rebound battle could also be key in setting the tempo, with the Suns edging out slightly in board control. Yet, the Suns' knack for fourth-quarter heroics versus their lower-quarter win ratio offers the Spurs a window to pounce on any Phoenix missteps. Historically, the Suns have dominated recent face-offs, especially on San Antonio's turf, with a sterling 7-0 streak in their last road games against the Spurs. This trend, coupled with Phoenix's flair for rising to the occasion, promises a riveting clash. However, the Suns' shaky run against the spread this season could sway the betting scene. Given these elements, and considering the Spurs' tenacity and the Suns' explosive attack, expect a tighter contest than the bookies might predict. Despite the Suns being the 10-point favorites, their iffy record against the spread this season, combined with the Spurs' doggedness, suggests the game could be anyone's. Coupled with both squads' scoring firepower and defensive lapses, a high-scoring affair is on the cards, likely to breeze past the 229-point mark set by the odds makers. In summary, brace for a scoreboard-busting clash with the Phoenix Suns, snagging the win, fueled by their scoring mastery and tactical finesse in crunch time. However, the San Antonio Spurs are poised to defy the odds, leveraging their home court and the Suns' spotty spread record to cover the 10-point spread. Expect the total points to soar over 229, with the Spurs covering and the tally surpassing the predicted threshold. The last prediction for today is for the game between Denver Nuggets and Portland Trail Blazers. In the much-anticipated clash at the Moda Center, the Denver Nuggets, flaunting an impressive 49-21 tally, are gearing up to battle the underdog Portland Trail Blazers, who've been grappling with a 1950 record this season. This face-off paints a picture of two diametrically opposed squads. Denver rides high from a triumphant showdown with the Knicks, thanks to Michael Porter Jr.'s stellar 31-point spectacle, showcasing their scoring finesse. Conversely, Portland's season continues to wane after a stumble against the Clippers, despite Scoot Henderson's valiant efforts. Diving into the numbers, the Nuggets are lighting it up with an average of 114.7 points per game on a sharp 49.6% from the field, propelled by Nikola Jokic's towering averages of 26 points and 12.3 rebounds. Their prowess extends beyond the arc with a 37% success rate and shines at the charity stripe, hitting 76.2% of their free throws. Meanwhile, the Trailblazers are in a rut, managing 107.5 points on a 44.2% shooting efficiency, though Anthony Simons and Jerami Grant have been sparks of hope. A critical angle in this matchup is the back-to-back game performance, where Portland has displayed notable tenacity and an impressive 9-2-1 record against the spread on 0 days rest. This grit could be key against a Denver squad that, despite its winning record, has been less predictable against the spread with a 32-37-1 overall and a lukewarm 11-15-1 record as road favorites. Head-to-head, Denver might have the upper hand, but Portland's knack for beating the odds, especially as the underdog, stands out. The Trailblazers have outperformed the spread in 2 out of their last 3 meetings with the Nuggets, proving they can hold their own despite challenges. Injury updates and recent team form tip the scales further. Portland's dogged determination, showcased by a 5-4-1 spread record in their last 10 games and leading the league with 32 against the spread victories as underdogs in 2024, underlines their gritty underdog ethos. This spirit, coupled with their earlier season performances against Denver, hints they might just defy the odds once more. Taking all into account, including Denver's scoring efficiency, Portland's determined spirit, and both teams' betting trends, the forecast tilts towards a nuanced verdict. The Nuggets, with their dominant game and scoring edge, are positioned to clinch the victory. Nonetheless, Portland's resilience, especially on their home court and their proven track record against the spread with limited rest, suggests they'll overcome the 14-point spread. Expect the total points to surpass 210.5, reflecting both teams' scoring potential and recent trends. I predict the Denver Nuggets to secure the victory, while the Portland Trailblazers will not only beat the 14-point spread, but also push the total points above 210.5.